Hi, and welcome to a new segment of Beyond Books. It's a special time here at the Novi Library. We're taking our regular Beyond Books to a different level and interviewing some local authors. And tonight, I am so excited to introduce you to a local author whose name is Alicia Elster. And I'm so very happy to have her here, and I know you will love meeting her as well. So welcome, and I'm glad you're here.
Thank you so much, Margie. It's great to be here.
So before we start, I need to tell everyone that Jean has just won the 2014 Michigan Notable Book Award for this fabulous book that you see in front of us called The Colored Car, and it is fantastic. So congratulations on that.
Well, I appreciate the good wishes. Thank you so much.
It is. It's wonderful, and I know it's geared for younger people, but I loved it. I thought it was great, and there's lots to talk about at an adult level as well. So.
Well, when I'm writing, I always keep my adult readers in mind. When I'm writing, even though the core audience is, I would say middle grade, 8 through 12, I have just as many adult readers in my audience because I try to give my young readers an intelligent read, a challenging read, and really it almost comes to a level where adults can embrace it also. So I appreciate hearing your comments about that.
Well,
and
I embraced it.
Yeah, thank you, thank you.
So I just wanted to tell the audience a little bit that you were born and raised in Detroit.
Yes.
And went to the University of Michigan. So for my Go Blue fans, yay.
Yes, definitely.
And then went on to U of D to get your law degree, which is also extremely impressive. So kudos for that. Anything about the background, or your background, I should say, that you'd want to share before we really start talking about The Colored Car?
Right, well, I really fell back on my English degree and my training there when I decided to kind of put the law aside. Once I got married and I had kids, I wanted to do something home-based. So I decided to fall back on my English training, my English degree. Started writing essays for some national publications such as Ms. Magazine, Christian Science Monitor. And I sort of fell into writing for youth. That wasn't really my plan, but that's how things work sometimes. And I was writing testing services for a national testing organization. Oh, you know, such as like the MEAT, equivalent to the MEAT, those kinds of tests. They hire professional writers to write the blurbs. And I was writing what they call juvenile passages. I worked with a wonderful editor, and she helped me cut my teeth writing for young adults and slightly younger readers. And that's where I got my training, and things just kind of fell into place after that.
One thing followed another, huh?
Exactly, yeah.
Well, let's talk about The Colored Car, because it is phenomenal. Historical fiction. Give us a little teaser for those who haven't had a chance to read it yet, what the plot is.
Right, well, it's based upon real events in my family's history. And in the summer of 1937, a 12-year-old girl, her worldview changes unexpectedly after a train trip south to Clarksville, Tennessee. So during that train trip, and then on her trip home, and once she gets back to Detroit, she's really trying to work through her experiences. Basically, when she had to go from a first-class car, which they boarded at the Detroit Central Terminal, here, that's still here in Detroit. Right. And when they got to Cincinnati, which is just outside the Mason-Dixon line. So before they could go to Kentucky, all the passengers, that was the stop, all the passengers, all the African-American passengers, and at that time, the term was colored, and it wasn't a derogatory term then, it was just the term, would have to get off at Cincinnati, go on the platform, and get on the colored car. And so it really is her experience having to make that change and then having to deal with it, both right afterwards and then when she gets home.
So you mentioned family stories. So this is your family. Now, was this retold to you by mom, by grandma? Did you have an opportunity to really know your grandma as we got to meet her in The Colored Car?
Okay, that's a two-pronged question there.
Sorry, I have so many questions to ask.
And that's beautiful. Maybe we'll have part 2 of this interview. But what many of the stories in this book were things that I heard over and over in my youth. However, the story of the colored car, I was an adult when I first heard that. And the fact that my aunt, my mother's oldest sister, who in this book is called Patsy, the fact that she could still feel the emotions she felt having to go into that colored car, and this stark difference between the first-class car and the colored car, that really impressed me, that this would still be such an emotionally wrenching experience for her. So I think that's how it became the major portion of this book. Now, in this book, you'll hear a lot about and read a lot about the summer kitchen. I grew up from the time I was a toddler through an adult knowing about the summer kitchen and the canning that went on. My grandmother every year canned 1,000 jars, literally 1,000 jars, and which she used to feed her family. And she also helped families in the neighborhood, because this did take place during the Depression. So there were many, many families that, were it not for the food my grandmother gave them, would have been hungry. So that was impressed upon me throughout my childhood. So there were some childhood stories that I made sure were a part of this book.
Now, did your mom, I know this is totally another subject here, but did your mom carry on with the canning and all of that as well for you when you were growing up?
She did to a lesser extent. I don't think anyone could do what my grandmother did, really. That was just a different age. But my mother would make grape jelly. There's a grape jelly recipe in the book. There's also a recipe for piccalilli, and my mother made that. I even did a little canning. I used to make gooseberry preserves. That's all I ever did.
Tried it, done that often.
Right, but you know, I felt I had to at least do
Give
that.
it a chance,
And I have the utmost respect for my grandmother after doing just a few jars of gooseberry preserves. But so yeah.
So it's pretty clear that inspiration for writing comes from lots of different angles for you. You've got the English background, you've got these beautiful stories to share. Anything else adding to the puzzle of what helps to inspire you to write so beautifully?
Oh, thank you, Fran. That's a beautiful question.
I loved it. I loved your other one, who is Jim Hines,
right.
as well, too. So.
They're companion books. And well, I really want to make sure that both children and adults in the 21st century know what that aspect of life was in the 30s. It takes place in Detroit, but this is really a universal story. Could take place anywhere in America. And so I particularly wanted this story in Detroit, in Metro Detroit, to be told. And that's kind of an impetus for me, because the core is true. Even the historical context of the book is true. So in The Colored Car, there's a flood that takes place in Clarksville in 1937. There actually was a flood, a very major flood. About every 10 years in Clarksville, there's a flood. So there was a major flood that took place then. So that's historically correct. In Who's Jim Hines, there's some mention about the unions, and there's some mention of the auto unions that are going to start. Who's Jim Hines is in 1935, and that is the year that the UAW was created. Right. So all of the historical backdrop is correct. And readers can feel certain that what they're taking from that is a historically valid story.
Well, I knew you had done your research. It was very evident. So how can we as educators encourage people to write down or record their memories? Because you're fortunate, you've had the family stories on and on and on, but not all of us are that lucky that, you know, our grandparents shared things. How can we in our generation make sure that we do that?
Yeah, that's also an excellent question. And I think that whatever opportunity you have to talk with other relatives, whether they're in your generation or an older generation, I think you should grab that. You know, even if it's at a holiday dinner or a birthday celebration, just, you know, sit down in a corner and say, you know, tell me about whatever. How did you celebrate birthdays 20 years ago, or anything of that nature? And then just jot it down in a notebook. It doesn't have to be anything fancy. You don't even have to have a computer. But I think if you write it down and take notes and you have that core base there, then later on, at least you can pass that on to your children, grandchildren, or whatever.
You know, it's interesting too with all the technology and all of everybody's phones. They can just make a video from their phone.
You could do that
you know,
also.
record it. So there's lots of options. We just need to encourage people to do that. I wanted to get back to something that you had mentioned earlier with Patsy and that strong message that you gave to all of us readers about, you know, overcoming fears and working through challenges. I loved that part. I thought that was a great message to send to kids. You know, not everything can be smooth and easy.
And it's a message for adults too. I think even in today's world, we want everything to go smoothly because it is a lot easier to work out certain problems and certain issues. And then when you hit a roadblock, it's like, oh my gosh, it's the end of the world.
What do I do, right?
And it's not. It's not. I mean, you can work things out. You can work it out so that it's at least livable, you know, and really just don't give up. Just don't.
Is there anything that I didn't ask you that you'd like to talk about, or is there anything that you want the readers to take away that perhaps I didn't give you an opportunity to talk about?
Did a great job, Margie.
Thank you, as you do.
No, I think that really just being able to see the situation through, because you never know around the corner what the future holds. And if people are flexible, if they trust their gut instinct, appreciate your situation, I think that's a core message from the story. It really is.
And be kind to others and treat others as you would like to be
Generosity,
treated.
really,
I
generosity.
agree. Well, I loved it. I thank you so much for being with me tonight, and thank you for writing these beautiful books for the community. I know you're in Detroit, but to me, we're all one big
It's
happy
Metro Detroit.
community.
It
You
is,
got
yeah.
it.
And I thank you for making these available to your readers here at the Novi Public Library.
Well, it was a delight, and obviously, I can't wait for your next one. No pressure to put something out right away, but
Writers need
I'm
pressure.
ready, I'm ready. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Margie.
And thank you all for joining us for our Beyond Books, and I hope you'll tune in real soon for our next one. Thank you and good night.